So the dust has finally settled a little bit with the announcement between Apple and Google and bringing Gemini over to Siri as a foundation for Apple Intelligence, but people are acting as if Google is taking over Siri or Gemini is coming to the iPhone and that's going to be used as the main form of communication from an assistant standpoint, and that's just not happening. In this video, what I want to do is break down and bust all the myths of people talking about and freaking out that like, oh no, Google won the AI war, or oh no, the iPhone's about to become a Pixel 10 and Gemini is going to take over iOS. None of that is happening. So let's talk about what's actually happening, what you need to know about this new deal and what's going to be happening moving forward, and ultimately what Apple's master plan is here, because I think for us iOS and iPhone users, it's actually going to be a huge net positive moving forward. Let's get into it. But now before we continue, if you do enjoy videos like this one, we go through all things Apple, whether it's news, software, or hardware related, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and help us get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. So there's a very simple explanation here in terms of what's actually happening. So Apple is going to be using Gemini, the AI model, not the Gemini application or the Gemini product. What Gemini is built on, they're going to be using that AI model as the brain for Siri and Apple Intelligence moving forward that they can build on. And this is going to be all Apple based. Like you're not going to see the Gemini logo. It's not going to be powered by Google. It's going to be Apple is still shipping the Apple version of their experience. It's still going to be Siri. It's still going to be Apple Intelligence. They're just going to rewire everything to be built off of Gemini because Apple has been the most impressed by Gemini in terms of all the different AI kind of platforms that are out there right now. So the TLDR here is that Gemini is not coming to the iPhone. Siri is just being built on top of Gemini, but it's being Appleified. So to kind of bust some myths here and be crystal clear for us kind of understanding what this deal means is the first myth was that Google Gemini is coming to iOS and turning it into Android. That's not happening. No Google app is going to be required. There's going to be no Gemini button, no forced Google account sign in. It's going to have nothing to do with Google in terms of Google's ecosystem and how you kind of use it and sign in there. Like if you have a Gmail account, it doesn't automatically mean that you sign into your Gemini on the iOS device. That's not going to be the case. It's still going to be proprietary to Apple and native to Apple's ecosystem. Another big myth that keeps getting talked about is that Apple's going to allow Google and Gemini to access your Siri request. Also not going to be true, right? Apple says that it still runs through on-device and private cloud compute, is that they're just bringing the code over from Google into Apple's private cloud. So it's all still going to be owned and functioned and kind of decided by Apple. It's just going to be, they're using that foundation model at the bottom built by Gemini. And then the final myth that I want to bust is that Siri is now just going to be Google Gemini. That is not going to be the case. Siri is still going to exist as its own interface. It's still going to look and feel the same. Apple will then also decide how it looks, how it behaves, and how you interact with it. Because again, this is all built by Apple. They're just buying that base code from Google, or at least paying them for it $1 billion a year, supposedly, on a multi-year license deal. And for those that aren't aware, Google has been paying Apple around $20 billion a year to make Google the default search engine in Safari on every iPhone. So, they've done this before and they continue to do it. So now it's just going the opposite way, which is kind of interesting. So that's what Apple's master plan is going to be. They're going to be able to fine-tune Gemini to their liking, keep it Apple branded, and keep it to the essence of Apple, while getting the benefit and the proactiveness of something like a Google Gemini and how it's worked on the Pixel and Google side. So Apple can now ask Google for changes, but it's also going to fine-tune Gemini on its own, which means that it can behave more like an Apple product because that's what it's still going to be. It'll follow Apple style, Apple safety standards, and match Apple's tone. So Google supplies the engine, and then Apple's going to tune it and make it feel like a Porsche, essentially. That's the analogy that I want to be able to use. And I'm actually kind of happy about this because Siri has needed this for a very long time. So Siri historically has struggled with things like world knowledge, a lot of open-ended questions, multi-step queries and reasoning, and real conversations. Siri's gotten a little bit better here and there over the years, but it has still really struggled past a one-statement kind of design. So Apple really wants Siri to answer things like, what's the population of X country, or explain the scientific thing instead of, here's a list of links. I mean, if you guys go in right now and ask for something semi-complicated, it'll just Wikipedia it and then give you a list of links on what to look at to get the answer. And the reason Apple kind of failed with Apple Intelligence and Siri, at least here in 2025 and 2026, is because they tried to have an old model be combined with current LLM models from ChatGPT. So the most important technical context is that Apple tried to build Siri as two different systems, right? You have the old Siri, which is all about just one-line commands, right? You have your timers, your text, your reminders, maybe one quick world knowledge view in terms of population or the weather and things like that. And then they tried to combine it with an LLM Siri that was based off of ChatGPT style intelligence. So it basically tried to do things on device the old Siri way, and if it couldn't do it, then it would send it to ChatGPT, giving us a very broken and experience that was just full of friction, which for the end consumer was absolutely terrible. So of course Siri will get smarter, but some of the best contextual things are going to come over from Gemini and come over for this new kind of found Siri. I'm curious to know how Apple's going to market this, because they've already revamped Siri a few times. They're going to revamp it again. Who knows? But a good example is going to be like a messy contact name. So for example, if somebody says, text my mom that I'm on the way, but you have a different contact name that isn't just mom, maybe you have a bunch of emojis or you call your mom something else, it'll then be able to infer with the new Gemini powered Siri that you're actually talking about this contact name. Maybe you call your mom M.A., like Ma, or maybe you have a bunch of emojis to the right and left of the name. It'll then be able to interpret that, whereas right now, Siri, unless you actually have your mom saved as mom, it will not know to contact your mom via that text message. So now in terms of timeline, when do you expect this new change? Because obviously it's not happening today in January of 2026. This is probably going to be announced at WWDC in June, right? They're going to have an early Gemini-powered improvements rollout, maybe with a 26.4 or 26.5 beta update earlier in the spring here, but expect the summertime in June to really be the day that Apple talks all about it with iOS 27 and the new Gemini-powered Siri. But again, it's not going to be branded by Google. There's going to be no Google branding as of now for this product, so it's still going to be very much an Apple product here moving forward. So this will trickle in throughout the year, and it's going to get better and smarter and hopefully get to know you on a much better basis. And I hope that it does not require some sort of subscription or monthly membership in order to get the best version of what the Siri is going to be. So as the final thoughts here and the final take is that, again, this isn't Google coming to iOS, this isn't Gemini coming over and replacing Siri, it's just them buying the foundation of what Google Gemini is and then building Siri on top of that while using a lot of those Google resources to help build that at the end of the day. And like I said, this is going to be a net positive for Siri, and I think finally 2026 is going to be the year for Siri to actually be something that's at least somewhat useful. But let me know in the comment down below what you think. Are you excited for this? Are you sad about this? Are you scared about this? What kind of emotion is it bringing? Are you happy that Apple's kind of going into the foray? Are you happy that Google's coming into it? Always curious to know what you guys think in terms of these types of partnerships, because Apple's now letting Google into their walled garden. Always curious to know, but if you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin, and if you want to watch more videos like this one, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.